Not you. Sit down.
Do you know what? Move this up. Get rid of them. Get them out of here.
Morning, sir.
Are there any protesters with them?
No, they just got two people. And we moved the AR thing right to the front. Okay.
Through Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. and the live stream has begun. You may begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that we have quorum this morning, so I will indeed call this meeting into session. This regular council meeting for Wednesday, March 26th. We will now ask all those that can to please stand for the national anthem. I would now like to call on Councilor Bernarski to read the land recognition statement.
The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land, steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hediwandurunk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Councillor. I now turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to item 4, approval of the agenda. And I have amendment put forward by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert, that the agenda be amended to include item 10.4.4, information correspondence, and that the agenda be reordered to consider item 12.2.1, recommendation report for additional residential units, immediately following item 5. To Mr. Mayor for a vote.
Okay, thank you. First, any discussion? Not seeing any. I call the vote. All those in.
Sorry, I'd like
Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilor Nesnick.
Do we have the delegation here for Fawn Hill Gardens?
We do, yes.
We're just moving the.
Then I think he should be able to go first, so we could put that one in underneath that one, if that's okay.
Well, we'll
Yeah, I would,
Take the vote.
we'll take the vote.
Okay.
or I would look to the mover and the seconder if they wish to amend their motion, they may.
I'll make a motion then that we,
We do have a motion on the floor.
sorry.
Okay.
Friendly amendment?
Yes, if the mover and seconder are willing to make that amendment, we could definitely, that's fine.
Okay. Council Wing.
Thank you. So in addition to that, let the presenter do, the delegation do their presentation. 7.1 we deal with afterwards, and then we deal with 12.1 after that.
Councilor Kerr, are you suitable for that? Sure. Okay, Madam Clerk, is that follow the rules?
Yes, so then the motion will read that the agenda be reordered to consider 12.2.1 immediately following item 7.1. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, call the vote. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. That brings us to the motion as amended. And again, I have the mover as Councillor Kerr, seconder as Deputy Mayor Eckert, that the agenda for March 25th, 2026 regular meeting of council be adopted as amended. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor and as amended? I see no opposing. Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings you to item 5, disclosure of pecuniary interests.
After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest to declare? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've noted that. That brings us to our delegation this morning, item 6.1.1, and we are joined by Rocco Vaca, representing Font Hill Gardens, to discuss hydro lines on Highway 20.
Thank you. Rocco, you have the floor, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Mayor Junkin and members of council. My name is Rocky Vaca, and I'm a senior partner at the law firm Sullivan Manny and counsel to Font Hill Gardens in this matter. Last week, I began sketching out in my mind what I would say to you this morning. What would I say to convince council that the town should not spend over $816,000 to bury hydro lines to basically improve the aesthetics on Highway 20? On Sunday night, I was at dinner at my daughter and son-in-law's house. During the dinner, they were debating trading in my daughter's 2018 Jeep Cherokee for a new Acura SUV. After listening to the discussion for a few minutes and knowing they had just purchased a home, had just gotten married, had a substantial mortgage, I patiently asked, is there anything wrong with the Jeep? Isn't it working just fine? Still has low kilometers, and most importantly, is fully paid for. My daughter answered, yes, Dad, it works great, but I don't like how it looks, and I want something new. And that's when the bells went off. A new car wasn't what they needed or was a must-have. It was something they wanted and a nice-to-have that, quite frankly, wasn't worth going into further debt for this young couple. I submit to you that the same reasoning applies here. The existing hydro lines are functioning just fine. Buried hydro lines are not a must-have, nor something that is needed in the town of Pelham, nor respectively worth going into further debt to put in place. On November 20th, 2025, Pelham Today conducted an online poll asking the taxpayers of Pelham which infrastructure project in the 2026 budget ought to be the top priority. Over 8% voted for the new $8 million main fire hall. Over 16% voted for the urbanization of Station Street. Over 33% voted for drainage system upgrades for future road work. And the majority, over 41%, voted for none, and that the focus should be on reducing debt. The choices in the poll were arguably all must-haves, and the majority voted for doing nothing and reducing debt. Respectfully, if an expenditure of over $816,000 to bury hydro lines was included in the poll, I would be surprised if anyone would have voted for it to be a priority for the town. Font Hill Gardens, Inc. over 9 years ago was given no choice but to post a letter of credit for $500,000 as a condition of proceeding with its development. It reluctantly did so. No other property owner or on either side of Highway 20 was forced to post a letter of credit or any security for burying hydro lines, and no other landowner is being compelled to contribute to the cost if you proceed with option one. Quite frankly, that is unfair. Font Hill Gardens, Inc. has been a great corporate citizen over the past 25 years. It was instrumental, together with the town, in the Font Hill East development and in facilitating the construction of the Meridian Community Center, the development of the Wellspring Building, and construction of the commercial plazas on the south side of Highway 20. It has waited patiently for the return of its letter of credit as evidenced by the fact that this project was in your approved capital budget for 2025 to be completed sometime over the next 10 years. Now, you must keep in mind that the $500,000 has been basically sitting in an account and could not be used by Fawn Gardens in order to secure the letter of credit. If they were able to invest it and achieve 7% interest annually, that money would have doubled over the last 9 years. So that is what Fawn Gardens has lost in 9 years. Accordingly, I respectfully request that you proceed with option 2, rather than incurring over $800,000 in further debt for a nice-to-have, because it will look better to have a new Acura SUV, buried hydro lines, versus keeping a fully paid-for Jeep, the existing hydro lines, which are functioning just fine. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions to the presenter? Not seeing any?
Thank you. Thank you,
Again,
Mayor
thank
Junkin.
you for your time. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there are no questions, I have a motion moved by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert, that Council receive the presentation from Rocky Vaca for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the associated staff report, conversion of overhead to underground hydro lines along Highway 20. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2026-0059 for information, and that Council direct staff to pursue option blank with respect to the utility relocation project on Highway 20 from the Sobeys Plaza to Rice Road. And through you, Mr. Mayor, there are 2 options contained within the report.
Yep, thank you very much. The 2 options, of course, are to proceed, tell staff to proceed with the burying the lines at the associated cost, or this is the meeting where we put this matter to rest and we decide not to proceed with the burying the lines. I must say, Council, that this is indeed the final. We have to make a decision here today. There won't be any deferrals. Obviously, it is a fair piece of change to bury them. I'll open the discussion for Council. Council Wink.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This has been going on for 9 years, as Mr. Vaca stated. Had we acted upon it way back when, the cost would be considerably less. I was surprised to see that the cost at this point in time was inflated. I didn't even think until I received the report that Cogeco had skin in the game and that they had to bury their cables as a result of it. I agree with Mr. Vaca that $818,000 of taxpayer money, which we would have to go get a debenture for at this point in time, is not a good use of taxpayer money. So I would be going for option 2.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps before we do any other discussion, I will call on the Director of Finance. How would, if we decided to bury the lines, and well, how would where would the money come from?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, the $816,000 is not in our 10-year plan, so this is additional debt on top of the projected debt that we have. There are a lot of big projects that the town has on the books. Like this year, we're taking out $8 million of debt for the fire station. There are other large projects, and this would just be additional increase to the tax levy in order to pay for this. This is where it's coming from. There is no other funds but to take out additional debt, which right now, as you recall, when you see the debt ratios, we are one of the highest in the region as far as debt in relation to our revenue.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. When this came up to council the last time, I was in favor, or I proposed option 2. I can't for the life of me get my head wrapped around spending that amount of money, incurring debt. There are other things that we, as a council, voted not to do, like, for instance, a new pool. We voted to refurbish the old one, and that was to not incur any more debt. And if I was going to incur debt, I would much rather have it in a community activity like a pool rather than burying hydro wires, which at the time, a couple of years ago, I said is really just an aesthetic thing that we want to do, and it's only for a very short space on Highway 20, and the rest of it would still be the same. So are we heading down doing all of them? And then what cost would that be? And the other thing I brought up and I want to say this morning is they mention in there about it will increase efficiencies. It's like amalgamation. How? Nobody says they can throw that term out there, it's going to increase efficiency, but they don't say how. Because I can tell you that where I live, and my esteemed colleague, Councillor Hildebrand, gave us a report late last year, my hydro goes out 3 times more than NPI customers, and I'm on Hydro 1. So what spending this amount of money to increase efficiencies on Highway 20 is going to do to help me and my neighbors who are out of power 3 times more often than NPI customers? So I was against it a couple of years ago, and I'm against it now, and I agree with Councillor Wink, and I would be supporting option 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any Councillor Hildebrand, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with my fellow councillors. It's only 1 kilometer of line that we're changing up to the Sobeys Plaza. And my evaluation is based on needs and not wants. Underground services in the area are not essential, I believe, for the businesses or any of the people that use the power in that area. The transformer boxes are already on the ground, so that is not an issue. It's too bad when the road was redeveloped in 2016 and 17, Highway 20, that underground cable trays weren't put in that facility. Bell at the time did their work. Cogeco and Hydro One did not do that work. There's no data, no economic data supporting safety or reducing outages in the report, because I don't think there's anything that can be proved in that extent. Aesthetically, I agree, but it's only a short distance, and I don't think anyone even looks up in the sky when they're driving into town to see the hydro lines on poles in the area. So basically, based on that, I will be voting for option 2, not to bury the hydro lines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any comments on this side? I'll go back to this side. Kevin Kerr, Councillor Kerr, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in support of option 2. I hit on the same points. I don't see an increase in reliability provided. I don't see an increase in safety identified by any data. And it was interesting, power failures that happen have a tendency to be source related rather than associated with those actual structures, the poles and the wires. It's from outside of the control of the town whenever we have a power failure. It's a transformer or something, but not there. And I looked at the cost thing. I said, we have a lot of things coming to us that we have in the books. It was brought up about the fire hall. I remembered and went back and I said, well, we also have on coming to us is a demand for a new public works building that we haven't even really hit the floor with yet. That's going to cost a lot of money. I looked at the Font Hill Library Phase 2. There's an ask for more money for it. We had the hospital ask. We provided money. I fully anticipate that if the Welland Hospital is going to be redone, there's going to be a big ask of the community for money for it. So spending $800,000 to put hydro lines and Cogeco lines underground, I just don't see as a good investment. I'd rather buy some new playground structures for the town with that kind of money than worry about putting something underground that has a limited use for the majority of the residents. So I will vote for option 2.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any other comments? If not, I'll call the vote.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we do need a mover and a seconder for option 2.
Okay. Oh, Counselor Nesnick.
Yep, so I think I see my name here on the moving, so I will be it resolved that council directs staff to pursue option 2, which is cancel the utility relocation project and return the securities to the developers.
Okay, and we need a seconder. And we'll go with Counselor Wink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion on this motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of option 2? And I see it's unanimous. No opposition, motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, and that brings us to the motion as amended, Mr. Mayor, which would be to direct staff to pursue option 2, cancel the utility relocation project and return the securities to the developers with respect to the utility relocation project on Highway 20. And for a vote, Mr. Mayor, I can
Okay.
reuse the same mover and seconder.
Okay, thank you. We need to move in a second.
I can just reuse Counselor Nistick and Counselor Wink.
Counselor Nesnick's all fine? Okay, excellent. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to item 12.2.1, recommendation report additional residential units. And I have a motion moved by Counselor Nisnik, seconded by Counselor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receives staff report 2026-0061 for information, and that Council directs planning staff to prepare the bylaw for Council's consideration in accordance with Appendix A. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So to be clear, this is not to pass the bylaw today. This is just due on the recommendation.
That is correct.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Not seeing any. Oh, Counselor Wink.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We've had a lot of correspondence regarding the legal nonconforming use, so I'm referring to clause 3.29.1F, and I would appreciate some clarification through you to Ms. Sturton. How does a property become legal nonconforming, and also to Dr. Dusling to provide one or two examples of a legal nonconforming property?
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Ms. Sturton, be prepared for the answer.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Wink and to Council. Legal nonconforming use refers to a concept where if a particular use of a property is established at a particular point in time and is legal at that time under the zoning bylaw, if a zoning bylaw is subsequently passed that would disallow that use, the pre-existing use is continued as a legal use. The reason it's called non-conforming is because it doesn't conform to the new bylaw that gets passed, but it remains legal because it is protected by the prior zoning bylaw, the one enacted and in force at the time the use was established. So that, in a nutshell, is what a legal non-conforming use would mean and how it would be established.
Thank you. And to Dr. Dusling?
Dr. Dusling, please.
Yep, through you, the mayor, to Councillor Wink. A couple examples of legal non-conforming could be where a property was once designated and zoned residential and had been changed to commercial. If there was a single-family dwelling that remained at the time that it was residential, it could continue even though the new use was commercial. Another example might be a provision for a setback. If once in a previous zoning bylaw there had been a provision for a side yard setback of 3 meters, and in a new zoning bylaw it had been changed to 5 meters, the use, if it was built at the time that it was 3 meters, could continue within that setback.
Councillor.
Thank you. So then, added on to that, if someone had a detached garage and and it was legal at that point in time, the zoning changed to say that the side yard setback had to be 5 meters. That detached garage is legal non-conforming use.
Ms. Drusen?
Through you, the Mayor, to Councillor Wink, that's correct. And in essence, that's what 3.29.1F is identifying in the bylaw. And it's allowing those uses that exist to continue without the need to come forward for a minor variance if they wanted to establish an ARU.
Yeah, so in layman's term, that detached garage could be converted to a single ARU. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Councilor Wing.
So I have another comment to make. In the provisions, section 33.29.1B in the draft bylaw indicates that a basement, an entire use of a basement could be used for an ARU. I question that. So for example, you could have a 2,400 square foot bungalow and 100% of the basement could be used for an ARU. So in other words, 2,400 square feet for an ARU. I don't believe that's the intent of what we're trying to do here. I think it's sufficient to say 50% of the floor area of the main dwelling up to 1,000 square feet. Like, I don't think we want to create ARUs that are over 1,000 square feet in the urban center. So that said, I'd like to make a motion to amend, to direct that section 3.29.1B of the draft bylaw contained in Appendix A be revised to delete the sentence, "An ARU located in the basement of a primary dwelling unit may occupy the entire basement."
Do you have a seconder?
Not yet.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Okay, yeah, okay, Deputy Mayor Eckert for second. Then we'll have discussion. Madam Clerk?
Yes, that would be up for discussion.
Okay, so now we'll have discussion on this, and Councilor Nesnak.
So I just, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to check with Dr. Dusling with regards to what the provincial policy says on that.
So through the Mayor to Councillor Nizniak, the provincial planning policy, like, it's silent in that regard. This would be something that we could change if we wanted to. The intent was that we don't see an ARU in the basement, so it wouldn't characteristically change a community, but it would allow for more living space of an ARU in the basement. So if it's council's wish to take that out, that's appropriate.
Okay. So I will comment. I will not vote for this amendment because, as the director said, it's below ground. We're not increasing the footprint of the building. So if we're not increasing the footprint and it's the building, the basement is there anyway, I just think it's a little bit of a, I don't see the problem, to tell you the honest truth. It's, if it was going to be above ground and it was going to be that big a size, then I could see it, but we've already got the basement. We're not improving, we're not increasing the footprint, so I will not vote for this motion. That's my own feelings. Any other?
Yeah, so allow me to rebut that.
Yes.
You create a unit of 2,000 square feet in the basement, you're creating all sorts of other problems. Number one, the number of occupants that are going to be in there. Number two, that leads into a parking problem. So that 2,000 square foot unit is only required to have one parking spot. We had a gentleman here a few months ago complaining about his townhouse, and there was only 2 parking spots, and he had 3 cars and had no place to park. We're going to create more and more problems if we start letting ARUs become bigger and bigger and bigger, because the people in the ARU, mom's going to have a car, dad's going to have a car, daughter's going to have a car and the son's going to have a car. So we're creating more and more problems going forward. So I find that allowing that square or the entire basement not in the benefit of our community.
And just to be sure, this is just in the urban?
Correct.
Yes, okay. Okay, thank you. Council Nesnak.
Thank you. So, yeah, I just going to comment too. I think I have to agree with the mayor that I don't foresee it being big problems such as Councillor Wink is saying. So I would not be voting on this motion either in favor of it. We have on our street we have 2 homes right now that have entire basements used as ARUs, and there's no issue with any of them. So, and they do take up the entire basements. I won't be supporting the motion.
So I question, what are the sizes of those houses, and are they 2-story?
One's a bungalow. No, they're both bungalows, actually. So they would be around 2,000 square feet, I would think. 1,800 for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Kerr?
Yes, I fully understand where Councillor Wink is going. I think when we looked at some of the dimensions that were put in place for ARUs in percentage of primary dwelling space, my instinct is that we utilize that for even within the primary dwelling for the ARU is probably would meet that. I do concur with Councillor Wink. My concern would be parking. That a single space, the minute you go over, I mean, we have micro apartments now that go in that are far less at 500 and 600 square feet, but generally one person. But now you have things that the minute you get into 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, if you've got, I have my basement, I could easily have 4 bedrooms. I'm within the village, and I have lots of space, but boy, if I had a big house and put that in, and suddenly I know that usually 3 bedrooms means 3 people and often drivers and everything else in the multiple vehicles. Parking is a concern with me, but that's where I'm thinking that by elimination of this, but utilizing the percentage of primary dwelling as we had for the urban is probably the best fit at this point for the interior. And that's my own personal instinct relative to that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Just a question. I'm always trying to be about fairness here, but so a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Dr. Dusling. There's a restriction on the size of ARUs in rural settings. Is that correct? And is it 1,200 in the new bylaw? 1,200 square feet?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is a size restriction. I'm just going to have Lindsay come up to confirm that. My understanding is that it's 50% to a maximum of 112 meters square.
So Lindsay can stay where she is.
Yep.
There you go.
Basement's the same.
Yeah. So, we restrict the rural area where there's lots of room, and we're gonna kind of allow a 2,000 or more square foot basement ARU that could potentially house 2 to 3 people. Am I reading this wrong? I see Lindsay going,
To
Yeah.
the director, Ms. Dusling.
Yep, through the mayor to councillor. Yes, so the maximum in the urban area is 50% to a maximum of 93 meters square. Does that help?
if I knew what 93 square meters was, it would certainly help.
1,000 square feet.
1,000 square feet, right? That's what we're talking.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, so in the urban area, there is a restriction of 50% to a maximum of 1,000 square feet. In the rural area, it's the same 50% to a maximum of 1,200 square feet, but we've also added in the same clause in the rural area that if it is the basement, it can be the entire basement as well. So that was standard throughout each of the areas in the town.
Right. So, but generally speaking, would it be a fair comment to say that the rural areas that would put a basement unit in that could be 2,000 square feet or more, exceeding the amount. There's a lot more room out there. And where in the urban setting, you're taking a unit on a side street, whatever it is, and the potential of 2 to 3 people living there and bringing those vehicles into that neighborhood doesn't necessarily exist in a rural setting like that.
Through the mayor to the councillor, that's correct. Yes, the rural setting certainly would likely have a lot more space to accommodate parking. They would only be required to have the one space, but there's certainly potential for more room for more parking spaces.
And the last question I have is, does this, like having a square footage that big in the basement with the potential then of having multiple bedrooms and multiple residents down there, does that in any way affect, or do we have protections in place where this could become rented out, say, for students?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we can't, as sort of planners and through the zoning bylaw, we can't regulate the type of renter that is going to occupy the unit.
Correct. Okay, so that's an additional concern for me, along with the parking issue, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments? I'll go over again with this side. Councilor Bernarski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's more just a question. If the clerk could just confirm the amended motion.
Yeah, so right now we have the amendment on the floor. The amendment is to delete the sentence of 3.29.1b. Specifically, an ARU located in the basement of a primary dwelling unit may occupy the entire basement. So it's not the entire clause, it's just a portion of the clause, that specific sentence.
Okay. And so the size of the ARU in the basement would...
Just as entire.
Sorry.
Just as entire.
Entire basement,
That is
right.
being proposed to be deleted.
Okay, so it would be the same ARU size as in the urban settlement up to 93 square meters. Is that correct?
Through you, the mayor, to councillor, yes, that's correct. There would be 50% of total gross floor area for the primary dwelling unit to a maximum of 93 meters square.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So here's the thing, that 2,000 square feet could be created in 2 separate units, but doing 2 separate units, there's more parking that's required to be provided.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I guess I just want to, well, I'll ask my question later because I'm thinking of the rural. Okay, so this is just in the urban boundaries that we're talking about. Okay, just want to be sure of that. Okay, any other comments? If not, I'll call the vote on the motion. I don't see any other, sorry?
Yeah, so.
We're
Just
good?
on the amendment right now.
I'm sorry?
We're just voting on the amendment at this time.
Just voting on the amendment now. See no further comments. All those for the amendment, in favor, raise your hands. Those opposed, my amendment carries. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You may continue your conversation on this matter if council has any further amendments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that was, thank you, Councilor Wink, for that amendment. Any further amendments that council members would like to bring forward at this time? And I don't, Councilor Nesnick.
I don't have any amendments, I just have a couple questions, so is that okay if I go forward with questions then? Okay, thank you. So just through you, Mr. Mayor, could someone in planning, maybe Dr. Dusling, can she just clarify 12.2.1, 30% landscaped area? What's the meaning of landscaped area, please? I know I read it once, but let's just read it aloud, if possible.
Yep. Great question. Through you, the mayor, I'm going to ask Lindsay to come back up and just outline what a landscaped area would include.
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councilor Niznik. So essentially a landscaped open space, I don't have the definition in front of me, unfortunately, but landscaped open space is essentially a permeable green space that's required. So it can't be parking, it can't be paved. Typically it's, it's grass, it's shrubs, it's trees, it's bushes, it's that kind of stuff. So something that we are including to, hopefully address some of the concerns that we heard from the public.
Sure, just one more question through that then. So does the setbacks of the side yards and the back rear setback, is that considered green space along the 1 foot or 2 feet strip down around the sides of the homes that are nowadays being built?
Thank you, through the mayor, to the councillor. I guess we'd sort of have to look at the plan, but yes, I mean, if it is grassed, it would be considered part of that landscaped open space.
Thank you very much. And then just a couple more questions. Thank you. So nowhere in here did I read anything about, I've read a couple others in other areas of the municipalities in our local area, and some do allow short-term rentals, some do not allow short-term rentals. So should that be included in this bylaw, or is that a separate thing altogether to be considered? So that I don't think we want short-term rentals allowed in ARUs. If that's my opinion, but I'm not sure who we would direct that question to or how we could make sure that that's in a bylaw.
Through you, the mayor, to the councillor, my understanding is that is a separate bylaw unless Mrs. Sturton wants to add to that.
Okay. Ms. Sturton?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Niznik, if the intention is to prohibit short-term rental use in a particular part of the town, that would properly be a zoning matter. If the intention is to regulate how a short-term rental unit is operated, that would more properly be a licensing bylaw, a separate bylaw. So I think it likely depends on the objective. So if the intention is to prohibit the use of an additional residential unit as a short-term rental in a particular location within the town, then that's a zoning matter. If the intention is to regulate how short-term rentals are run and sort of not geographically related, that's a licensing piece.
Perhaps we all hear from the CAO.
What Ms. Sturton says is correct, of course, as a technical answer. But as a practical one, 7 years ago, this town was really struggling with short-term rentals. You will recall that was the great issue of that time with respect to land use planning at any rate. And Pelham passed a bylaw after enormous public consultation. And although we've made what I would describe as one significant update to it in the years since, it's been highly effective. You look around Niagara and communities everywhere struggle with that issue, and that is not, I don't have any data, although we can find it. I don't recall a complaint in the last 3 years, like not a single one that's at my desk. So we've got that regulated well. It's an effective, pretty well-oiled machine that works between clerks and by law enforcement, primarily at this point in time. So that I don't know what the future has for anyone, but and what residents are going to try to do with their property. But if you want to engage in that practice of renting out a property or a component of your property, you have to apply to the town. You have to go through, and we have a long list of, that's a building inspection, that's insurance, that's, it's actually quite extensive. And I think there's a very good reason why Pelham has dramatically less problem with that issue than, I don't know if I can say all of Niagara, but I can say this is a flashpoint in Wainfleet. I can say this is a flashpoint in Port Colborne. I can say this is a flashpoint in Fort Erie. The newspaper 48 hours ago was talking about 37 charges in the city of Niagara Falls. So significant issue across the board, but it's been quite effectively addressed here. And so I would simply suggest, our experience has been that we're regulating that quite effectively. And I'm simply not aware of residential complaints on that matter in several years. But we have a good mechanism. I assume that probably every year people start or engaging in that business model. No idea that ultimately it's a private decision, but we, on behalf of the community, have a very effective response mechanism that has kept loud disruptive parties, poor behavior, et cetera, down to an extreme minimum. And Chief, do you recall the last time you had an enforcement issue?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do get the odd complaint, but we've been very successful in shutting it down quickly. We don't have any outstanding orders or charges. We don't have any outstanding issues right now at this point.
Thank you.
Then if I may, what I would say is, in and of itself, you have no idea when someone builds a secondary dwelling unit if the intention is rental, if the intention is for a family member, whatever that is. It's private use of private property. But if anyone wants to engage in that practice, they have to run through a gauntlet, and it isn't better or worse that it's in a secondary dwelling unit. What matters, truly matters, is that we force them to go through the standards and that the behavior is appropriate to keep quality of life good in our resident. And that was the real fear, right? Was quality of life in the residential community. We found an effective way to both allow that business model to continue, but to address chaotic behavior. And I think we got it really right. And the proof of the pudding is now years of that. So I respect that. Certainly it's legitimate well, what are they going to be used for? Well, we don't know. But as far as short-term rental goes, we have a very effective system in this town, and proof of the pudding is always in the eating. And so for that, I wouldn't make any changes on that basis to this as currently proposed. We do have, I don't know who in Niagara has a better system. I'd put ours up against anyone and welcome the competition. But if there do become problems, we do have mechanisms to address that at the end of the day. So I wouldn't worry about, there are plenty of things for us to worry about, but that's not one of them.
Good, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO.
Good,
Back
thank
to
you.
Councilor
And if
Nislin.
I allowed one more question,
Yes,
thank you.
of course.
While I've got the floor, thank you. So just a clarification, it mentions the primary dwellings as, where are they here? Single-family homes, block townhouses, that sort of thing. So help me understand, and this would be a question for either Lindsay or Dr. Dusling. So just to keep it a little bit simpler for my brain, the duplex, is a duplex on one piece of property, or is that considered two separate properties? Because they're two separate owners in the duplexes. And then if that's the case, is allowed up to each of those duplexes could then have 2 ARUs or 1 ARU in the townhouse plus an exterior little cabin or outside building. So we could have 6 properties on a duplex is my concern. If it's if it's 2 separate properties, or is it one piece of property?
Ladies, who wants that?
Yeah, so this might be a combined effort between Lindsay and I. So through the mayor to councillor, good questions. We have some different language in our bylaw than the province uses in terms of ARUs. But a duplex, semi, whatever you would like to call it, is one dwelling on a property. So you can have 2 owners, but it's one property. The way that this bylaw is written is that there would only be an opportunity to allow the 2 ARUs on the property.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure, so we don't end up with 6 units on a parcel that has 2 townhouses. So it is considered one. What about the row house? How does that work?
I'm going to look at Shannon and Lindsay. I don't know that we have row houses in our bylaw.
Oh, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Nesnick. So the province refers to row house. In Pelham, we call them townhouses.
Okay.
So it's just houses that are attached with those shared common walls. And the way that the provincial legislation is written is that the limitation or the allowance for ARUs is based on an urban residential parcel. So it's your ownership piece that you were mentioning. So when the parcel is severed, each parcel has that allowance. If the, say it's a block townhouse and it remains one piece of property and it's not been severed along those common walls, then the allowance for ARUs would be a total for that entire block.
Okay, thank you. So, follow-up question then, have there been any instances where those do get severed off?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the case of a street townhouse, that's the norm. You've got different ownership of each townhouse unit. They all have their individual driveways. They're all separately owned and transferred. And the bylaw and the way that the Planning Act is written would allow each of those units, though connected on separate pieces of property, to have ARUs. The block townhouse is more what we're familiar with, the condo townhouse model that you see over in Lavender Fields or Saffron Common on Port Robinson Road. Those are one piece of property in terms of the provincial allowances and our proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And so there is the allowance from us. However, there's very likely rules with that condominium corporation that would not allow that to happen.
So I'm just, to be honest, I'm just a little nervous with allowing those ARUs in, multiple ARUs in a stretch of townhouses if they're individual pieces of property. Whether there'd be space or not, I don't know. Probably not, because they're all on smaller lots, but that's just, I'm a little nervous on that. So I don't know, maybe some others thinking they got hands up. Oh, exciting.
No. Let's go with Council Wink.
Yes, so the saving grace on that is the townhouses are on very small lots. There's very little parking as is. If you create an ARU, you have to create another parking spot, but the parking spot on that lot wouldn't exist.
No. Ms. Luak, would you agree with that assessment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. And that's sort of the purpose of the bylaw that's been drafted by staff. There's a lot of, it's allowed, but there's a lot of guardrails to make sure that it's allowed appropriately. So the parking requirement is one of them. As you start eating up land for parking and things like that, permissions start to tighten up. So that's right. It's kind of, if it doesn't fit, it wouldn't be allowed.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. That makes me feel a little bit better. I do want to just applaud staff on the revisions. You've obviously listened to ourselves and the residents and taken all of the input and created, I think, a better bylaw that's much clearer and cannot be interpreted or seen as I think it's much clearer and better able to be followed by both developers. I'm moving towards, so thank you for the report. And I just like to say, you know, again, our planning staff, thank you for questioning when you see things that you think, oh, this doesn't look quite right. When I go back and read the current bylaw we have, really what happens is there's a part 1 and then a part 2. And unfortunately, the word or was not put in there. So, any building that has happened up to date has followed the bylaw. I'm convinced that everything was followed appropriately and rules have followed. Thank you very much. So,
you guys know it was
thank you very much.
Publicly, and I hope everybody can hear it. You're live.
So thank you very much for that. And as I said, I applaud the changes that have been made, and I think we'll move forward and this will help create some great properties in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kerr, you did have your hand up same time.
Yeah, it was sort of following on. The parking would be a limitation. The other part would be the setbacks. If you look at many townhouses, the ability to even put something in, if they wanted to put, quote, the cabin or whatever, I always love the provincial drawings, the chance of them ever fitting it in the backyard and having all the setbacks meet and be able to have anything is, I don't know, pretty hard in my opinion. So I think, as Councillor Wink said, lack of parking, they're not going to get it. Lack of setbacks, they're not going to get it. I think they've done, as you said, staff have done as much as they possibly can on this and followed it. I chuckled in as the last statement that receiving correspondence from people coming in on this particular unit, that one came in and suggested I'm a bad neighbor, and I found a great chuckle at that particular individual suggesting I was, and all I can say is I hope they come to my place and knock on all my neighbors' doors in the middle of winter when I'm plowing their driveways and taking snow out for them and their garbage and a few other things. So I guess I must be a bad neighbor.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate and applaud staff and actually everyone on council. This has been a very pretentious issue, and I think we've moved along, and hopefully I think we're going to get it right. I have just a couple of questions. If someone has applied for building an ARU, but it has not yet been approved, and then we pass this bylaw, do they qualify under the legal non-conforming, or does it need to be an approved permit?
Ms. Sturton?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Eckert. That's a tricky one. The law requires the intended use to be established, so I don't think it says, it's not a bright line test in the sense that you must be approved in order to qualify for legal non-conforming use. If an application has been submitted and active steps have been taken to establish that use to the extent possible, so if they're duly or diligently pursuing the application process and so on, then I think that would be sufficient to attract legal non-conforming use protection more likely than not. If they've submitted an incomplete application and have taken no steps beyond that, then that would not necessarily attract the protection. It's difficult to sort of give a blanket answer because it would be case by case, but I think an application that is complete and in process and clearly demonstrating the intention to establish that use might be sufficient.
Okay, thank you. I hope I haven't opened a can of worms here, but, and do we have any of those?
To the Director of Planning, Ms. Doosley.
Yeah, through the mayor to councillor, good question. We have been very open and transparent with our development community and the town of Pelham as a whole on this topic. We have met with developers independently. We have shared with them timelines. We're expecting the bylaw, if recommended for approval today, we will bring the bylaw back on April 8th, and we have shared that date, potential date with developers. So in the queue right now, we do not have any applications forward in the queue on ARUs, but again, we've been very open with those dates with our development community.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my worry is that I think everybody around this in this room, we're all of the same kind of mindset, where we're doing what we think is the best for the town, residents, et cetera, and we're proposing a bylaw that is going to protect residents and the town, et cetera. Keeping in mind, however, that there are people out there that employ very smart, knowledgeable people to do nothing but find a loophole or some little thing that we overlook because we don't have that same kind of mindset. We're looking at doing something good, and they maybe look at how can we get around that. And it's tough for us to put our minds to that to cover everything. So. But I want to applaud staff and council for doing everything in our power to get this right going forward. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments, questions? And I actually forget where we are.
We're in council.
Madam Clerk.
We're just debating the motion as amended, Mr. Mayor, so any topic is on the floor for
So
discussion.
there is no more amendments, I take it? Okay, not seeing any. Then I will call the vote on the matter on the floor.
So that would be the motion as amended, and be looking for a mover and a seconder, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we need a seconder.
and a
Councillor Wink and Councillor Hildebrand.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a vote on the, for planning staff to bring back the bylaw as amended.
Okay, for staff to bring back the bylaw as amended. Any further questions, comments? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion passes. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to item 8, adoption of council minutes, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that the following be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. CO5 2026, regular council meeting of March 4th, 2026. SCO6 2026, special council meeting of March 11th, 2026. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any errors or omissions.
Okay. Any errors or omissions spotted by any council member? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings you to number 9. And if there are any items on the consent agenda that council would like to lift for separate consideration, now would be the time.
Okay. Are we going to break them down at all, Madam Clerk, or just go for?
Yeah, we certainly can. However, if there's any items that council would like to lift, we can do that first, or
okay.
identify those first at least.
Okay. Looking at the consent agenda items, is there any item that any particular councillor would like to lift? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Okay, great. That brings us to the consent agenda. And yes, we can proceed by category. We do have one staff report, so we can discuss that first.
Okay. On the first group, has any questions, comments on the staff reports? Oh, Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Public Works. With regards to system performance under item 4.0, these flows may significantly vary over time due to the several factors including precipitation. I don't understand how system performance can vary based on precipitation when all our systems are enclosed systems. So that statement does not make sense to me.
Let's go to Director of Public Works, Mr. Marr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So every system that is installed theoretically should be watertight. That's usually not the case, and as the infrastructure ages and you start to get root infiltration and breakdown of that piece of infrastructure, you allow more infiltration into the system from rainwater and stormwater. So it's called inflow and infiltration, and I sometimes present that as a separate project item as part of our capital budget. We do annual camera inspections, CCTV inspections, and flushing on our system to try to identify those deficiencies, and then we've got capital programs that'll work at correcting those deficiencies. So there is always some level of infiltration into the sanitary system from storm and rainwater.
Councillor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I would have thought because of the soil conditions we have in our area that the sandy soil, that the rain, if it does get in, precipitation does come in, it'll be draining past our pipes, which has a flow in it. That's just my comment.
Okay, thank you. So going on Councilor Hildebrand's, I see the one time it was plugged, and that was because of silt in the line. So again, I take it that there was some kind of leakage there that let the silt get into the line that forced it to be power washed out. Is that what happened there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with respect to that incident, I don't have the specifics on that, but yeah, there would be areas in that system and breakages in that pipe where you could get silt infiltration Also from the road surface, you get infiltration through the manholes.
Okay.
One of the other things we do with respect to trying to prevent infiltration into our system is to, when we do reconstruct roads, and a lot of the infiltration happens at the surface level when you start getting manholes that break down. And so you'll drive around town on a lot of our newer roads, you'll see the concrete rings that we put around those structures to try to prevent the breakdown of that piece of infrastructure and reduce the amount of infiltration that we have.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Nesnick.
Just a comment, I happen to live on the street where the silt buildup was, and for some reason, that street seems to have an awful lot of silt on the road, and when it rains, it just drains right down into that center there at the intersection of Merrily and Bacon. I've several times cleared away the drains there on the sides of the roads. So for some reason, I don't know whether it's just super sandy soil or whether there seems to be just some runoff down into that area, just kind of a collection of issues. So I do see the silt on the road as well, and then we usually try and flush it down the drain, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this group? Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, just to follow up for Councillor Niznik, in many cases, just as an open suggestion, a lot of people have sump pumps, and their tile drainage, which is around the footing of their buildings, is embedded in sand. And what happens is, it's water, it's actually sandy water that gets into their sump. Then they turn around and they pump it out onto the road or down the driveway. That's many times the point source of that particular material. And for Councillor Hildebrand wondering about what these our soils don't drain that well. That's why we put in tile drains in most farm fields, because they will get saturated. And when they're saturated, they're saturated. So that's just my 2 cents of agricultural input.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Eckert?
Is this where I can ask a question about 10.5.1, or we're waiting for the next?
That's probably in the next group.
Okay.
Let me just see. Yes, in the next group. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Yes, if you'd like to move on to action and information correspondence, we certainly can.
Okay, so now Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Okay, thank you. So I read with interest the micro transit statistics from Niagara Transit, and I know that there's been others on council that have made comments about this, and I don't know. I have an issue, and there was a presenter at a public meeting last week that made comment about it as well. So with our annual contribution to Niagara Transit divided by the number of uses by residents of Pelham, we're paying a heck of a lot for a bus ride. And when I look around the region, and we had 6,000 uses, and when you get a municipality that's relatively the same size, maybe slightly bigger, say Fort Erie, they had 26,000 usage. And, I don't know that they're paying that much more than we are, percentage-wise. But I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm not asking. I don't know. There's no one here to explain it, but it just sort of, unfortunately, these sort of things, as a community a whole in Niagara, we're expected to all contribute to the betterment of everybody in Niagara. But, and I understand that, but it's just that when I look at those stats, I just think to myself, somebody is going to call an Uber before they're going to call the bus, because they get there a little quicker and they get to their destination a little quicker, and by what it costs them. So anyway, it's just something that bugs me, and it will continue to bug me, and at some point in time, maybe there'll be somebody that I can ask this question of. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nesnick?
So just as a follow-up, we did make some use of the bus this year, and it was a wonderful service. It picks you right up at the door and takes you right where you want to go. I think the ride is $3. So with the price of gas, I think we're going to see an increase in ridership, and I think it will be interesting. I'm going to move on to 10.5.2, which is the LAM. So increase. They're kind of connected.
Oh,
but-
wait. All right.
But go
If
ahead.
we're still on transit,
It is transit, yes, still. But go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Just, and maybe someone can talk to someone from transit or whatever, but they're providing a report giving us a snapshot of 3 months. I'd like to know how that compares to last year for that same 3-month period before I start making a lot of comments on transit. So are we picking up? Are we declining or whatever? But just getting a report for 3 months in isolation doesn't provide great statistics to me. So I'd like to see better, more enhanced reporting to us. So just comments.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. To Councilor Nesnick.
So just, again, going on to 10.5.2, which is the local area municipality request for increased enhanced transit service. So am I understanding this correctly? And I'm not sure, maybe Mayor can answer the question. So if we want to have increased services here in the town of Pelham, we have to go through this request for LAM.
Yes.
And now that has been passed through the Niagara region, this policy, or this is Niagara Transit has come up with this procedure?
So Niagara Transit brings it to the region, and the region, it's in effect now.
Okay.
So if like you say, if you want more than the basic, they would actually, according to that report, they would send someone down and they would discuss what it's going to cost us to do that. And then we would have to decide whether we wanted to pay that much for the for whatever enhancement we wanted.
So there would be additional costs on
Yes.
top of what we're already paying
Yes,
from this policy? So that will be for all municipalities will be faced with that?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, okay, thank you. And then to Deputy Mayor, when we brought this, and as you alluded to, when we made transit a regional entity, we realized that there was going to be certain inequities and that we were doing it for the, as you say, for the better good. And I remember when this passed, it was time we thought that the Niagara region had a region-wide system that people, so cars would be able to afford. And unfortunately, like you say, like a hockey arena, there's not a hockey arena in Canada that makes money, but it's a service to the community. And I realize that there's quite we pay a hefty price to have that bus service in the town of Pelham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. And I do understand that. I guess I have trouble because I'm going back in time when area municipalities in Niagara appealed to both Fort Erie and Niagara Falls for a portion of their gaming revenue, and we were flatly told no. It's our money, we're spending it. And now, then Fort Erie lost their revenue, and now they don't have any trouble in getting support from all the other municipalities to benefit them then. But I just wonder where that benevolence was a number of years ago. So that, I guess that's where I'm coming from. I just, when they start, looking at us and other municipalities to subsidize that, where were they then? But anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Any, Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, transit's what I call field of dreams. It really is. If you build it, they will come. And I think if we do take into account societal change that we're trying to promote to get to less car dependent, the only way you get people less car dependent is to give them access to a transit system that's reliable and easily accessible. And that takes time. And I think we're all aware within the town of Pelham that people are, kind of the giveaway is a lot of our new developments, there's 3, 4, 5 cars. And people seem to be able to find the money for a car, and they'd rather have that than they don't get pushed into it. My wife, when she was living in Toronto, she didn't start driving until she was 32 years old. Public transit was the way to go.
Yep.
Even when you lived on the outside, you climbed on the stuff and grabbed it. So I recognize it's a high cost up front. It's been a tough time. There was a lot of expenses to transit. Let's just say when they inherited an awful lot of old vehicles and had to go through a whole bunch of money being spent on getting that system up and running that were costs that no one really thought about. Suddenly, oh, we have to safety check every bus now that's been transferred and how much that cost and do all this and upgrade and the rest of it. It's those kind of things that creep up on us. But I think fundamentally, I agree with Councillor Wink. Comparable metrics is probably the better way to judge and ascertain whether you're getting value for your dollar. But we also recognize, as was mentioned by the mayor, sometimes there are, quote, loss leaders in that it's a societal good that we're investing in. So I understand where it's coming from. It's expensive. I've traveled enough places. I was able to get into the heart of Sydney, Australia, an hour and a half outside of that city based on their public transit. I was shocked at how far I could go for next to nothing in terms of expensive transit cost. I couldn't drive for what I was riding in. So these are the kind of things that evolve over time and help reduce the car footprint.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on any of the items? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there is no further discussion, I have a motion put forward by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the March 25th, 2026 Council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. One last time, any further comments? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 12.2, staff reports requiring action. And our first item today is delegation of authority for restricted acts following nomination day for the 2026 municipal election. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2026-0022 for information and that Council direct the clerk to include the bylaw on the next regular council meeting for consideration. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. After reading the report, any councillor have any questions about this delegation of authority? I see none. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. And this is where we say, Mr. CEO, please be careful with our funds. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next item is 12.2.3, Administrative Penalty Bylaw for Parking and Traffic Matters, Schedule A update. And I have a motion put forward by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be resolved that Council receive report 2026-0064 for information, and that Council approve the proposed Schedule A to Bylaw 69-2023, and that Council approve in principle Bylaw 17-2026, and Mr. Mayor, that is included on today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps we'll go to Ms. Sturton as to why this is on the agenda today and what we're approving.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, the traffic and parking bylaw that we recently passed to replace 7 old traffic and parking bylaws, bring them all into one place. This is the implementation piece to get the administrative penalties going for that bylaw. So it brings it into bylaw 69-2023, which is the administrative penalty bylaw. And council may recall that when we developed the administrative penalty bylaws, both for parking and non-parking matters, we opted to include all the designated bylaws in a schedule, which allows us to repeal and replace Schedule A as bylaws change, as penalty amounts change, and so on. So this is just the last piece needed to get our traffic and parking bylaw fully implemented and enforceable through administrative penalties.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Kerr?
The only one that I came up with, and it's only because I scanned through these, it talks about operation of motor vehicles, and there's a fine for operating a motor vehicle on a boulevard. Now, I think we have some particular roads in here that are called boulevards within the town of Pelham. So I find this is this an issue?
Through you, Mayor? No. Boulevard is a defined term in the traffic and parking bylaws, so it's specific to unpaved areas between sidewalks and roadways, and so it would only apply to that term as defined.
The one step ahead of you, Councillor. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next item is 12.2.3, proposed license agreement with Pelham Historical Society. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2026-0066 for information, and that Council authorizes and directs staff to enter into a license agreement with the Pelham Historical Society, which agreement shall be in the form satisfactory to the town solicitor and substantially the same as the draft license agreement attached hereto. To Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you. Obviously, this report came about because the library insisted that Pelham Historical Society find new homes for their treasures. And the town, Ms. Van Ravensway, we gave them that room in the old town hall. They feel this will meet their needs, do they?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we've worked with the Pelham Historical Society in finding a new location. We've given them a couple of options, and they like the small room at the Old Pelham Town Hall. That room isn't being used at the moment, and it will meet their needs. And they were very thrilled to be able to move everything into the room.
Excellent. Very good. And great work by staff to make that, to point out that that building, that asset was available to them. So kudos to that. Any other comments or questions on this item? Not seen. I see Ms. Nesnick. Councilor Nesnick.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, just to our Recreation Director. So just, will they hold their meetings at Old Pelham Town Hall too, or do they hold those differently somewhere else?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, the actual room is not large enough for a meeting because that's where they'll be storing things, and they'll have a small desk that they can work in there if they need be. If they wish to hold their meeting at the Old Pelham Town Hall, they will be, that's additional.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's good. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next report is 2026 Water Model Update, and I have a motion forward by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2026-0051 for information, and that Council approve the award of Part A of the 2026 Water Model Update WRT 0426 in the amount of $42,780 plus applicable taxes to GEI Consultants, Inc. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. A question to the Public Works, and there's two pretty close ones, but I believe this is the one that went from 20 to 42. Is that what happened? And why was that? What they had to get into a more detailed report? Is that the increase?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Council approved a budget for this project in the 2026 capital budget for $100,000. So this is a new project. It's not in a pre-existing assignment that's been awarded. This is a project that involves looking at and redoing the town's water model. It also will involve integration into the region's master servicing plan and their water model, which the proposed consultant is currently completing on behalf of the region, who were retained by the region through a competitive process on their end. GEI is a firm that completed our water model back in 2018. They also do our asset management planning, the studies that we've done in the recent years for that. And staff feel that this is a good fit and very efficient use of the budget to get the work done in a timely and efficient manner.
Okay.
If there's further questions regarding the actual study and what it would involve, Sydney's here. She's our environmental compliance analyst, and she would be happy to answer any questions on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council on this undertaking, on the water study? Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yeah, just a quick question. I don't know if it's for Sydney or for you, Director, but so we budgeted $100,000 for this project, and we've contracted it out for $42,000. Is there a use for the additional $58,000, or is that surplus right now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I'll answer this question. We budgeted $100,000, so we solicited a quote from GEI. Their price to do the work is $42,780 plus applicable taxes. So the unused budget would be used to cover off any additional unforeseen costs that happen. Otherwise, those funds would then be returned back to the reserve.
Thank you.
Council, thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next item is 2026 Asset Management Plan Update, and I have a motion put forward by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-067 for information, and that Council approves the award of the Asset Management Policy and Annual Report in the amount of $39,273 plus applicable taxes to GEI Consultants to complete the annual progress update to the Asset Management Plan and update the Asset Management Policy, and that Council approves the additional funding for RD 1326 in the amount of $19,273 from the Roads Reserve. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Again, if I can direct a question to the director. So I guess I know that the town staff runs on a pretty skeltering budget and staff members. I'm just wondering, is the asset management plan update, that wasn't something that we could have done in-house? And again, I realize that our engineering staff is usually running if not inadequate, but more or less right along a line. I was wondering if you could comment on that, having to go to outside consultants to do an asset management update.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an excellent question for Derek, our manager of engineering. He's able to, I think, answer this in a fulsome respect, but in essence, I believe this assignment we're able to transfer the responsibility over to town staff to carry forward the implementation and updating of the asset management plan. But I'll leave that to Derek to comment on as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Young, any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the asset management update includes the generation of a template that will allow the town to continue doing their annual updates on an annual basis. Currently, we don't have a template format. We're not quite sure because this is a new area we just got into after completing the asset management plan last year. So this will enable us going forward to be able to do our own reporting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, it's just his comment. This is a one-time cost, so from here on forward, we don't have to repeat this over and over again, I take it.
That is, did you hear that question, Mr. Young?
I did, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I mean, the template will allow us to do an annual update. However, every 5 years, we have to update the asset management policy, which is the one that we may require some outside assistance on. But that occurs every 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kerr?
Yes, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
I guess any other councilor have any questions for Mr. Young while he's here? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Again, thank you, Mr. Young. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next report is water user fees, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-0062 for information, and that Council approve the new water user fees as outlined in the report to take effect on April 1st, 2026. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on this item? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes our reports, and that brings us to item 15, presentation and consideration of bylaws. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the following be ready first, second, third time and passed. 17/2026, amendment to the town's administrative penalty process by replacing Schedule A, which relates to traffic and parking penalties. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any questions, comments? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries. And I think before we go in camera, Madam Clerk, maybe we will have a 5 or 10 minute break.
Certainly.
And remember that we do have to be going by 11 o'clock. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct. If you'd like to pass the resolution to move in camera, we could do that first and then go on break.
Just to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So again, that brings us to the resolution to move in camera, and I have a motion proposed by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Councillor Niznik, that Council resolve into closed session to consider the following matters. 1, closed session report 2026-0069, development charge appeal update, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, as per section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, as per section 239(2)F. And closed session report 2026-0043, potential acquisition of land for municipal purposes, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, as per section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any comments going in closed session? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion passes. And before we go into closed session, we will have a 10-minute break. Thank you.
You have to be out by 11?
No, we